What is up? Welcome to the Motorsport Report, special Tuesday edition of the Motorsport Report. I see we have that's Bradley in the comments already joining us here. We definitely hope for answered prayers. It is Tuesday, and the date is November the 18th. NASCAR has been gone now for almost 3 weeks. We've had World of Outlaws, World Finals. There's been some news pieces hitting back and forth. NHRA kind of exploded. We'll talk a little bit about that today. Also, the great John Force retiring from the NHRA. So getting to learn a little bit about that side of the racing world. We're going to dive into that. Good bit of NASCAR stories to break into. Obviously, the big story that I've been waiting to talk about, this dropped this past weekend, but the new Chevy Camaro ZL1. I'm going to kind of go into that a little bit. We're going to talk about it. Also, got to kind of dip around the world of dirt racing. I'm going to dip around some supercars, some stuff that's happening around the world in motorsports. So we'll kind of dip all around today. Obviously, if you hear me, you can tell that I have I've been sick, a little bit sick, probably because racing is pretty much over now, and my body's like, all right, time to recuperate from your entire year. So now I'm just going to slam the sickness on you, and then you can get man-cold flu, and then you can be okay again. So, but we're still here, we're doing it, and I'm not going to do it alone. I'm going to do it with your help as well today. So, you guys know that this is a mutual show. This is a show based off of not just me telling you news, but a show based off of conversation around the world of racing, and that's why you can get in on the action. The number to call is 980-317-8717. You call that number up. Join me on Motorsport Report. Bring up your topics going around racing that we can talk about. I'll hear you out. I'll listen to you. I'm not going to slam you down like some people out there say that happens to them. I did listen a little bit to some SiriusXM radio this past week. I decided after arguing with Dave Moody about what he will and won't say in NASCAR that I would give it a shot. And I listened to it, and yeah, that's great. That's about all I'll say about it. I like our show. I like what we do over here, and we're going to keep it going that way. So, without further ado, I want to go ahead and break into the biggest topic. Also, happy birthday, Denny Hamlin. Today is Denny Hamlin's birthday. I don't know if any of you guys knew that or not. It's Denny Hamlin's birthday today. NASCAR hasn't told Denny happy birthday yet. So, if you get some time, head over to X, tag NASCAR, and say, are you going to tell Denny Hamlin happy birthday? I want to know. I want to know if they've thought about it. You know, I tweeted about it a little bit ago. I was like, have you thought? Let me see if they've said anything since then. I don't know. Some people have kind of noticed maybe. But I think that's a good Kenny Wallace line. I think that's a good indicator to determine if you aren't going to be super biased, especially with some things that are coming up. When we've talked so much about the lawsuit, we talked so much about playoffs. I might be sick from how much I've been defending why we need a full season points format. Maybe that's why. Shout out to NOS, though. At least I do have a beautiful NOS energy drink in hand that I can sip on to help me to get my energy levels up. And you can always see down here on the scrolling ticker, these are be some topics that we dive into today. And then again, there may be shit I missed, so call me and tell me about it, because I'm always down to learn. I feel like the day you stop learning is the day you die. So there's always things out there for me to learn. My curiosity is always going to continue the way that it does. But let's get this thing started. Talking with NASCAR, Chevrolet unveils. Oh, I got papers, by the way, today. Chevrolet unveils updated Camaro ZL1 Cup body for 2026. So Chevy revealed the refreshed Camaro ZL1 race car for the 2026 Cup season, debuting at the Cookout Clash at Bowman Gray in February 2026. Key visual updates: larger hood power dome, revised rocker panels, and front grille inspired by the Street Camaro Carbon Performance Package. Chevy remains committed to the Camaro nameplate despite its production in, focusing on racing identity. I put out a post, I don't know, probably about a month or so ago, and it got a lot of traction. A lot of people looked at it, and it stirred a lot of conversation. Obviously, there were people that were just like, yeah, right, nothing's going to happen, whatever. And then there were some people that were hopeful, kind of like me, that wanted to kind of like see through the whole car possibilities, you know. The fact of the matter is that we're in an era now where it costs money to do a lot of things, and apparently with Chevrolet, maybe they are not really caring too much about moving back into the sports performance side other than Corvette. And, you know, when I look at Ram and I look at Ford, or not Ram, but Dodge, when I look at Dodge and I look at Ford, they've already kind of like come out and they were like, hey, America, like we hear you. Like we're going to get back to producing our V8s. We're going to get back to, you know, producing 6-speed manual transmissions and things like that for the gearheads that are out there and for the people that just like performance sports cars. So, you know, Chevy, it definitely saves money for them, right? Like they don't have to worry about spending too much money on redesigning a whole new car. But I think a lot of people were hoping that you would see like a Monte Carlo or a Malibu, an Impala, like something return, right? Like we would want something to make you feel good as a consumer in the world of NASCAR. And the fact that they're just going to be like, hey, here's the Camaro. You've already seen the Camaro, but we're going to take one of our performance packages and just slap that on there. And like, look, I see why that's important, because you're able to look at some things that went wrong for Chevy, especially if you're on the Chevy side. Like if you're a Chevy fan, and I try to remain very unbiased here. I mean, I was raised a Chevrolet guy. My dad literally had the old photo of Calvin, the cartoon, pissing on a Ford emblem. That's the world I grew up in. Okay, so I grew up thinking Ford was the devil and that Chevy was good. If there was a small cartoon child pissing on a Ford logo on the back of my dad's C1500, you know, I was like, okay, this is the only way. It's the bow tie or bust. I'm not like that now. You know, I really love what Ford's doing. I really love what Dodge is doing, and hopefully there's going to be some hope for them to come into the Cup Series as well, or the O'Reilly's Series, as you'll call it now. But it really does make me feel unhopeful knowing that Chevrolet isn't really putting something new on the table yet. Like I know that they've leaned very heavy into EV. They're wanting to do the battery operated shit. I get it, you know. But when you've got someone like Dodge and someone like Ford that are like coming out and committing to American muscle, they're coming out and they're committing their loyalty and pledging their loyalty to the American motorsports fans and in the markets like that, giving consumers something to get excited about again. Like, oh, like hell yeah, I'm gonna go buy a Mustang. Hell yeah, I'm gonna go buy a Dodge Charger, the new ones that are coming out, whatever. Chevy's not really providing that unless they have some plan to return the Camaro to production. So for NASCAR in general, why I do think this is a good thing is, for one, they obviously had to do some experiments, right? So we know that this Gen 7 body is all about aerodynamics. There's very limited things you can do to the body of the Gen 7, but you also still have to stay within like a cookie cutter lens of like whatever car you're basing it off of. So like that's why you've got different front ends on the Mustang. That's why the Toyota is shaped a different way, and each of them have their own respective elements to what makes them great manufacturer cars, or not manufacturer cars, but great performing cars on the racetrack in the Cup Series, or to the best that they can be, at least. You know, Chevy could have technically went in and decided to start chopping up and say, okay, let's completely just look at the rule book of the Gen 7 and let's see what we can and can't do with that. Since we don't really have a card that we can tie it to, technically they could have done that. They technically could have said, okay, well, let's just shape this thing out to be the best performing within the rule book that NASCAR gives us. And then let's see if we can create like a consumer car to go along with that. They obviously are not wanting to create consumer cars that are based off of sports performance other than the Vet. We know that now. So they use this package. So again, and we'll look at it really quickly. I'll get it pulled up. They had a press release that came out over on the browser view. Just kind of take a gander. They use an AI-generated car. There's an AI-generated render of this car. You can tell because I don't know when they would have been able to get this shot anywhere else. So there's that. It's based off of this right here. So 2026 NASCAR Cup season sporting an updated design of its Camaro ZL1 race car with its competition debut set to come in February at the Cookout Clash Bowman Gray. So this is the package. I wanted to see if it gave a little bit of other info out, but I don't believe it does. So, you know, all in all, I had high hopes. I thought it would have been really cool to see Chevrolet be able to do something that Ford and Toyota just can't do right now, which is create something new, something that would be really just built around this Gen 7 and then say, let's release a consumer car with it. We haven't seen that since like the 70s with Dodge and Plymouth. So the fact that they kind of dropped the ball on that just really kind of lets me know, you know, and I feel like it's already been kind of like a weird off season now, especially with the playoff debate. You know, a lot of the there's some gloom around NASCAR in the Cup Series. So like the Chevy announcement was something that I was really, you know, excited about. I was like, at least, hey, like there's something that we can get excited about. Really, it's just a performance package. So you gotta hope that they obviously ran tests. They did aerodynamic tests. So maybe this carbon fiber package, the carbon performance package on the ZL1, maybe there's some tweaks in there that could really provide a better racing product and maybe put Chevy back on top and dominating in, you know, 2026. We'll see. But, yeah, I just thought that was kind of a ball drop moment. It was just kind of like, oh, you did that? Because everybody was hyped, man. Everybody was hyped. Everybody was talking about Cadillac and this and that. But I never once thought that they would bring Cadillac into the fold. It's Chevy racing. If it was GM racing, maybe, but it's Chevy racing. So that would require so much money, so much reform. They'd have to pull Chevy pretty much out of everything and just rebrand it all as General Motors. It would have just been whatever. So maybe we'll see that in the future. You know, now with Cadillac going to F1, maybe, you know, by 2027, 2028, if Chevy decides they're not going to get off their ass and make another sports car like the Camaro for the general consumers, for race fans, for people that just want to have a cool car that's not insanely priced and be able to have some fun with it. You know, maybe we will see that move to GM. Maybe we will see Cadillac enter in, and maybe we'll see the CTS become the Cup car. I don't know. I think that would be cool. It just all really depends on Cadillac's success, I guess, at this point. But for now, Chevrolet, using the carbon performance package, will be what we have going into 2026. I think Alex Bowman was doing some testing out at Bristol with it. And as you saw here a second ago, I just kind of want to start us back from a lot of bookmarks that I've had over the week. You know, we had Ryan Preece was talking about the test last week. So for any of you guys that missed the test, I'm going to let you guys hear a little bit about what he had to say. This is with the new Cup car, 750 horsepower. That they ran out at Bristol.
We just got done testing here at Bristol Motor Speedway. I feel like I did 500 laps. Brandon, tell us about your day up there.
Well, it was pretty warm. Yeah.
It was pretty cold where we were. But yeah, all done for day one, testing here at Bristol. Feel like finding the right direction, so excited about it. We just got done testing here.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear that we're finding the right direction. And also, too, Ryan Preece has been very, open and honest about it with me, at least on this program. If you've watched a couple weeks back, we had Preece on the show, and he was talking a little bit about all the work that Goodyear was putting in, talking about, that NASCAR is really trying to do something different with this car going into 2026, and they're going to need to. They're going to need to, and we all know it. So to see it possibly go this well is a good thing. There's still a lot more testing to do, but anytime Ryan usually has good things to say, he's pretty straightforward, pretty honest guy. I've known him for a while. I tend to listen. Some other things that happened this past week, a big one was Kaulig Racing and Ram launch a free agent all-star truck program for 2026. I don't know if many of you have heard of this. I'm sure you have by now. Kaulig confirms an all-star rotating driver lineup for the number 25 Ram truck in 2026, not competing for points. The concept is to surprise drivers, to use surprise drivers announced the week of each race, and obviously for fan engagement and championships. Ram will field 5 trucks with Kaulig next year, including full-time entries for Justin Haley, Daniel Dye, Brendan Queen, plus the free agent truck. So, the wild card seat opens some opportunities up, and I see in the one chat that we have today from Bradley, talking about giving Connor a ride. Could be something for Connor to look into. Haven't got to talk to Connor about it yet, but I will say that could be something for him to check out. I think it's a great thing. Kaulig was on, I think, one of the shows with Pete Pistone and Mike Bagley. Shout out to the bag man. I will say that. This was something that they dropped out because there was rumors that were going around that Tony Stewart and Casey Kane could be potential names, and I think some people believed that Tony Stewart was going to run full-time in the Truck Series and that Casey Kane was going to run full-time in the Truck Series, and that's not the case. So Chris Rice had kind of cleared it up a little bit, and I'll put us over to Browser so you can hear that a little bit for right now.
Everybody that drove a Dodge car, absolutely, guys. So you can put in there every single person that's been in a Dodge car, right? Let's talk about Lane Riggs' dad. I think he drove a Dodge. We were talking about him the other day. You know what I mean? So we've talked about all those guys. And are they going to drive a truck? I mean, if it's available, we would love for anybody to drive a truck that would like to that's driven a Dodge car before or a Ram. But there is no contracts with us that they're going to drive anything yet. We have 2 other trucks that we got to announce the drivers for. And when Ram is ready to announce those drivers, we'll do it. But as of right now, they do not have a contract with us. We do not have.
All right, so that was obviously earlier in the week. We know now that things are a little bit different. So those names have came out, and we have those. So I think overall, though, this is a good first attempt, really, for Ram to come out to do something different. They also had Dana White was out at one of his UFC events. And I think people were talking about that earlier in the week. I can scroll up and find some pictures of that. But Dana White was wearing his Ram polo out at the UFC. Adam Stern had put a photo up of it here, and I'll get it blown up for us real big. Here's old Dana. Zoom in. Look at him wearing his Ram and Kaulig truck shirt right there. Out at the fight. I love that Dana White is trying to at least take some of his UFC fan base and bring them to NASCAR. I've always thought that was a cool deal that he's been able to do. I know that they had a lot going on with the EV series and things like that. But for Dana to just be out here sporting Ram and Kaulig, that's huge because Chris and Matt are the boys. They've been very kind to me. ever since I've started in doing NASCAR media and things like that, and kind of getting around in the pits, they've always been really cool, very open, and so I always just want to see a lot of success for them. I want to see them do well in whatever they do. And they're also kind of pioneers in this space, and they want to do these big things. So it really just opens up big doors. And so I'm excited to see where things run this year with that. I think we are going to have some really cool names now that we know this all-star truck has been announced. There's really no telling. I'd love to get some of y'all's thoughts and ideas on that, of like who you think are some names that we could probably see ended up there. But we do know for right now that even though he said he's not going to say who it is, Stewart and Kane kind of being brought up early typically can be rumor driven, but I definitely think Casey Kane, because of his involvement with Dodge in the past, with Evernham Racing running the number 9, I think that one makes a lot of sense. Wouldn't it be great to see Jeremy Mayfield be able to run? Wouldn't that be awesome? Just all this stuff happening with NASCAR right now, and they're just like, we're going to let Jeremy Mayfield come and run the Kaulig Ram truck. I think that would be hilarious and fun. So I would enjoy that personally. But for now, we'll kind of wait and see. I don't know if there's been any other new developments that have happened with that story as of today. But for what I do know, that's kind of all we know. And I can go take a look really quick because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. And I appreciate you guys bearing with me today, as I have been a little bit under the weather. So it's just really hard for me to, take off, not want to do anything. Is Mayfield still on a ban? As far as I know, he is. As far as I know, there were things put in place to where if you go back and watch the interview that I did with him, he talked about he had options to possibly come back, but they were like, you have to admit that you did meth and drugs and shit. And he was like, well, I'm not going to lie. So he's been out. I saw him a few months ago. I was down at a short track here in North Carolina, and he was running. And, I mean, he seems to be doing well. He seems to be doing awesome. Hopefully I can get to talk with him a little bit more now that the year – I would love to kind of have him back on the show. Maybe we'll get him on Motorsport Report. We'll talk to him a little bit about what his thoughts are now, seeing everything that's happening, especially if we go to trial. If we go to trial, I want Jeremy Mayfield alongside me for that, because that's – even though this is a current events topic – I feel like this would just be such a big win for him as well, just because of all that he had to go through. And if you really know him and you really know his story and you can really connect to that, it opens your eyes a little bit differently, and you have a little bit more empathy towards the man, because you realize that what we're all realizing now is a lot of this is ego-driven. A lot of this, there's a lot of just big-headed people sometimes. And back then, probably even more so. So, yeah, I hope. My hope is that the ban's not there. But I think that after all this happens, if everything kind of gets back to a level playing field, it would be so badass to see Mayfield get to run the Truck Series as one of these guys. That would be like the ultimate redemption. It would just be the ultimate redemption. Polar Express says, I want Jeremy on the show laughing at NASCAR going to trial since I'm a big fan of him. Yeah, I'll definitely, like I said, NASCAR, the entity, is something I love. The racing series, the people come and the people go. There are certain people that are there that I love dearly that work at NASCAR, and there are some people there that I don't know that a lot of people don't have a lot of good things to say about. So it's I can only speak to what I know personally. Everyone that I've ever worked with at NASCAR were great people, and sometimes that's as far as it can go. I would love to have Jeremy on, though, because I do feel like that's just – if I were in his shoes and I was watching all this go down, it would make me feel a little bit more hopeful. It would make me feel a little bit better, because sometimes things can get very backwards, and enough time passes, things can kind of course correct themselves. So I do like that. Roscoe says the trial is going to be a barn burner of its own, and that it will be. And we're going to be talking all about it and covering it. Once December 1st gets here, I'm going to be very busy. I know that. So we'll see if they settle. There's been no news on a settlement as of late. So for now, this thing is still set to go. Now, we may get a Hail Mary, like, at the last minute, and they'd be like, we've decided to settle. Like, this could happen, like, November 30th, You just never know. I wonder if we can get Dale Jr. and Justin Allgaier on the show, says Polar Express. Well, that would be really cool. They have something to talk about right now, and that is the fact that they are going back to the Daytona 500 in the number 40 Chevy Camaro ZL1 with Traveler whiskey. So they're going back at it again, so you're going to get another year of I'm just a traveler commercials. So get excited for that. If you want that jingle stuck in your head, it will be. I'm very excited to see like what they do commercial-wise. They're always great ones to watch. Obviously, I have a lot of respect for Dale Jr. I work for Dirty Mo Media, so it's awesome to be able to see that. And I'll get it pulled up here so we can kind of look at it a little bit more. There was the promo right there. It came out on the 14th, so a day after our last show. Junior Motorsports announces it will attempt to qualify in the Daytona 500 with a number 40 Chevy driven by Justin Allgaier, and I think that they'll be able to make it. They did pretty well at that last time, so I'm excited. I'm excited. This is the second time he's going to do it. Justin Allgaier is somebody I have a lot of respect for. I still am supposed to buy a pair of Chinese toe shoes from I think from Temu because I lost a bet to him, and he said that I had to wear those, and I haven't made good on that bet yet, so I need to do that. So now you guys can keep me kind of in the loop for that. I don't know where I'd wear them though. That was about 2 years ago that happened. The number font reminds me of CGR's number 40 silver bullet car driven by Sterling Marlin. Hell yeah. That was a great car, man. Sterling Marlin's number 40 Coors Light car, that's like an iconic car. Like, I want that jacket. I need to find that jacket if I can for CGR. I know it's going to be a costly venture, but can't wait to see Junior Motorsports make the Cup journey. Hopefully we'll get that, I think a lot of people want that. I just think it's got to make sense to them on that side. And as soon as it can make sense, then I think that if all the things were lined out, I don't think there would be anything holding Dale back from wanting to go in that route. And I can't speak to that personally. So maybe we need to talk with him. Maybe I'll figure out a way that we can chat with him and get a little bit deeper, a little more real on that, to kind of see like what it would really take. And maybe there's already things out there that he's kind of talked about with that. So no real telling, but just happy to know that they are going back at it for the Daytona 500 in the races that they can. And it's such a weird off season, guys. I don't think there's been as weird of an off season in NASCAR as there has been this year, because we're all just anticipating this court case shit. I think that's the biggest part for me that has me like in a space or a headspace really where I'm just kind of like things can change day to day. It kind of felt like things were kind of locked in and we were just waiting for Daytona, and now it's like no, it's like we're waiting for just the end of 2025 to see what's going to happen. If Dale Sr. was still alive, he would be in tears seeing it. Oh yeah. I mean, dude, God, that's a show in its own, man. Theorizing history if Dale Sr. wouldn't have passed away at that Daytona 500. I think about that sometimes. I don't try to get too hung up on it, but I think about like what the world would be like today in racing. I think about DEI and just some of the big names that are out there now today, like who would have driven for DEI like through the 2010s and the the 2015s, like into now, like what would that have looked like? It's a fascinating topic, and we'll never truly know, but it's something that crosses my mind a good bit. I would say I've thought about that probably easily more than 40 times in my life, and just sat on a porch and just theorized, like, who would have been where, how big NASCAR would be today, what stars would we have made, what would NASCAR be like in competition with in the NFL. Like, there's so much. And I think that's why a lot of people that, I always gave shit. There's a lot of people out there that have always been like, NASCAR died the day Dale Sr. died. And I don't really feel that that's true, but a large piece of it, maybe. The older I get, the more I realize is that what people are longing for in that situation is, feeling like you were on top of the world with your sport again. And I think that it's like Dale had so much of a direction of like what he wanted, and his vision of NASCAR was bigger, I think, than NASCAR itself. And so, yeah, that's what makes him the greatest of all time. It's not just what he was able to accomplish on track, but it was his mind. And I think a lot of it comes from just a playfulness, a space of playfulness, a space of, ideas that sometimes people are too scared to act on. You get kind of boxed in, and Senior just didn't have fear. And I don't think, excuse me, I don't think people really understand how much fear really holds you back in life. And if they did, I think things would be a lot different. He was just a risk taker, man. He laid it all out. And that's what just really, keeps me going, is the fact that there's going to come a day where people can kind of put all that together, figure that out, and really push this thing forward. And maybe that day is here. Maybe that day is going to happen with this court case. Maybe this is the thing that can change things once and for all. I always have that kind of hope. Like, I always have that kind of outlook on things. I tend to be a glass half full kind of guy. And so it just takes enough people pointing out a problem to make the problem go away and make things get better. But yeah, we could sit here all day long on that with Dale Sr. And I see somebody was like, what are we talking about? Jason, we're talking about it. Dale Sr., man, and his impact. We were piggybacking that off of Junior Motorsports announcing that they were going to be attempting to qualify in the Daytona 500 again this year. Polar Express says, in my timeline, Dale is an 8-time champion. He beat Gordon by 1 point. The final standings, making 2001 historic season similar to 92. Dale would go down to win 15 more. It's just awesome. You could theorize so much with it, right? And but the thing is that we are where we are today, and we're going to carry that legacy forward and push that through. I don't know. Y'all can obviously see I get a little deep in thought when it comes to that, because it does. It means a lot to me. Dale Sr. meant a lot to me. Just his whole ideology, his mindset. Mindset is something that's fascinated me from day one with race car drivers. Like, just understanding how they think and why they do the things that they do and why they go out there and they put it on the line. That's why I have so much admiration for all the guys that I have as friends now that race. It's just something that's different in you when you're born, when you have that, and grateful that all these guys and girls that do race have that. So, an awesome thing to see. Another thing that we can talk about that happened in NASCAR this week, and by the way, stick around too, because today on our show, we kind of have a special guest segment. It's going to be a little bit different than usual, but I have a unreleased interview that I did with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at the World of Outlaws World Finals. You guys that are here tuned in live are going to get to watch it first before anyone else. I will have it up on my YouTube channel later this week, but you guys will get to watch it here. I'm going to air it live for you here today on the Motorsport Report. So we will get there. We're still running through our NASCAR topics right now, and then we are going to dive into a little bit of some things that happen in NHRA and dirt racing. So just to kind of keep things on track here, got a little off track there talking about the news with JRM and Senior and everything else. So me and Polar Express here in the chat are just having some fun diving into hypotheticals. Not bad at all. NASCAR had a demonstration run at Fuji Speedway in Japan this past week. So NASCAR stock cars led by Garage 56 Camaro and Cup drivers like Jimmie Johnson ran demo laps at Fuji Speedway in Japan, the event showcasing NASCAR to a new market. So this left people wondering, is NASCAR going back to Japan? I remember I was only 4 years old at the time when they went and ran at Suzuka. But there is some really cool content that you can go look up on YouTube, like the old footage of Dale Sr. in the AC Delco, blue and white. That was iconic to me. I found a hat not long ago, actually, that had AC Delco, and it had like some Japanese writing on it, and I thought that was so sick. Me as a fan of like drifting and just drift racing, that was always a cool crossover for me, seeing the NASCAR world in Japan because of how big drifting is in Japan. So those crossovers are always sick. So they had, I think Steven Toronto was kind of talking a little bit about it this week. I'll go ahead and get us over to Browser View to look at one of these stories. So here was one of them. Jimmie Johnson gave Toyota chairman Akio Toyoda a bottle of bourbon and a signed Legacy Motor Club helmet as part of NASCAR Industries' trip to Japan this week to participate at the Super Taikoo Series event. And I may be mispronouncing that. Cutting out for anybody in the chat. Jason, I'm not sure, brother. You let me know. My mic, if I turn my head sometimes, my mic gets a little back and forth. But also, too, shout out to Josh Williams here. I know we have Jason Williams in the chat, but shout out to Josh Williams, going back racing. The number 92, signed a multi-year agreement for them. So that's a great dude right there, full of life, full of love. And that dude can rip too, bro. That dude can rip when he wants to. So always happy to see him. He's just kind of a big voice. He's had some pretty memorable moments in the Xfinity series. I'm sure that you've remembered. Trying to look at, here was some of the footage from the Japanese, the run that they had at Fuji.
Straight away. The car that Jimmie was in couldn't keep up. We were actually driving away from him, and then Kamui and I missed turn one from how fast we were going.
じゃあ、皆さんよくご存知の小林カムイ選手です。じゃあ、今朝のバンプドラフトはカムイ選手が一番いけなかったわけですね。
はい、そうです。僕ですね。まあそういうのをやるキャラじゃないですか。
やってくれるとは思ってました。
ですよね。
はい。
でも車傷ついてないです。それぐらい強いんです。
ああ、そうなんですか。それはすごいですね。皆さんにお伝えください。
So he was just saying that he's the one responsible for the contact this morning.
Yes.
But he was surprised to see that the car had no damage at all.
No damage.
Like,
No, they're very well built. That's part of the culture at NASCAR.
非常に頑丈にできているので、
I love watching them like have like Japanese interviews because like there's such this thing, and I don't know if anybody else realizes it or has ever really looked at it, but like the cultural differences in Japan versus America, it's hilarious to watch people that are very like used to uniformed, like the uniformed ways of how media is done traditionally, and how Japan is just so sporadic and out there with their shit. I don't know. I thought it was very cool, very funny to see. Jason, I'm not sure, brother. I haven't heard that from anybody else in the chat, so if there is, definitely let me know. But I haven't heard anyone else say that. So definitely need to know that, though. I produce this show on my own, so I have no other producer here other than myself. So if the audio is not good for everyone, y'all definitely let me know here in the comments. But back to what we were talking about. Also up and down. It may just be from like when I go over here to when I go back here. Is that probably what it is? Because I know if I cut this way, sometimes it's just getting out of the direct line of the mic. Maybe what is causing that. So I'll try to keep a little bit closer to it. But when we look, this is what they were talking about, where you saw Kobayashi was trying to bump draft John Hunter, and everybody was like, whoa, they're touching, da-da-da. And they're like, no, these things are built very strong, very sturdy. So you got to think a lot of people in Japan, they haven't seen these cars in so long. They're so used to the F1 car. They're so used to, open wheel racing at these different tracks and stuff, or their own version of stock car racing. So to see them be able to do this was really cool. And I would hope that it does turn into to something else. We obviously got some dirt racing stuff we're going to get into here. But kind of going back over there, this was something I don't know if you guys saw this past week. But one of these big stories, let's see, Polar Express says, also funny story, this happened from Dover last year. Me and my dad was chilling in the parking lot after the race, and Sheldon fucking Creed came over and had a good chat. Yeah, he's that guy. Sheldon is a real one, man. I got to see him. He was at World of Outlaws with his wife 2 weeks ago. I got to chat with him for a bit. I'm sure I'll be seeing him around the way. They do a lot out at Millbridge and things like that. This was a story, though, kind of piggybacking off of the demo run at Fuji. Like I said, I hope that they do find a way to keep getting NASCAR involved in Japan. I grew up a big fan of the Suzuka circuit, so getting to see them do anything like that overseas is awesome. Continues to build up the fan base. I think that could be a really cool thing. One quick story that caught my attention this week, I want to get back over here, is this. I don't know how many of y'all saw this. An AI race at Abu Dhabi. There's no drivers in these cars. They are just cars with code. This is a science fair. This is all this is. This is an onboard from a robot car, doing exactly what you would expect a robot car to do. Crash into a wall. Yeah. So, obviously, I had to talk about this because they did this last year, and I'm all for AI. I'm all for finding ways to use artificial intelligence in racing. I literally have a research and development program that I do things with to help drivers and teams to get better at what they already are good at. This version of AI, this is what most people think when they think AI in racing. So it's very hard for me to have conversations with people because the moment that I say AI in racing, people are like, oh, you want no drivers driving the car. You want robots racing around. That's what you want. No, it's not. I'm going to say that I don't see the purpose in that use of AI in racing. This is nothing more than taking racing and making it a Topgolf. Just give those cars a remote control, and you can go with your buddies to Abu Dhabi, and you can control life-size F1 cars, either with an RC controller or a simulator. Let that be an experience like an arcade or something. I don't know. It'd be very expensive, trying to fix those cars. But let it be something like that maybe. Focus on doing robot cars more for an entertainment thing, not that people can immerse themselves in. Because there's a lot of people that have these weird fears that like, oh, this is what AI is going to do to racing. Like, you will never take a human being out of a race car. I don't think people would ever support, at least I know that I wouldn't. I just don't see what the appeal to watching just driverless race cars going around a track like that. What is that? Like, for one, there's only so much you can really do with it. I don't know how in the hell that would work on an oval. I don't know. I mean, with the road course, you're basically just creating a track layout map. They're using cameras like webcams, and they're just, they can run this simple line that they have and also try to react to the cars that are maybe coming up beside them or whatever else. You're just kind of letting them out there and going. Yeah, gambling. Like, you know how when people go to like the virtual horse racing, they have virtual horse racing now, which honestly is the most, you want to have fear about losing money. That seems like the most controlled way. It's like a slot machine, essentially. Like, you can't really tell like what your odds are because it's controlled by just an algorithm that you're trusting to gamble. So I wouldn't even gamble on it because I wouldn't see the point. But yeah, essentially you could treat that like virtual horse racing. Like that's something that you could do, I guess, with it, and just see which robots fuck up faster. But I just think that the general understanding of it, it's really got people in this place where they're nervous about the future with AI. So it makes it harder for anybody that has different abstract ideas of how to use AI in the racing world with human beings to even kind of tap in, because they see shit like this and they think that's immediately what you think. So for anyone that is watching this, that's not what everyone's always talking about when they talk about using AI in racing. It's not about robot cars driving and wrecking. The rabbit hole goes very deep. But I do feel very confident that there are ways and have seen proof that there are ways that you can get the most out of your race team as human beings with using AI and collaboration. And so that's where a lot of my work has been done, and that's where my work will continue to be done, because I think that a lot of this shit is it's Top Golf for racing, essentially. You just hand them a remote control and let them play. That's really all I got to say about it. Happy to answer any other questions that are out there on that as well at any time. Getting back to our last story, before we get into some NHRA news and dirt racing news. So Austin Cindric is going to be racing in Supercars, which I thought was pretty cool. Seeing him go and try a different discipline out is, or any NASCAR driver for that matter, trying a different discipline out is always a cool thing. And I think that Austin Cindric has now promoted himself to be the possibly only guy that can maybe try to challenge SVG. I think that the competition level is very wide between an Austin Cindric and an SVG, but maybe this will close his gap, a couple of centimeters. There has been some footage that came out showing Austin Cindric in the supercar, which I thought was pretty cool. I think they dropped it. Here's a couple of photos that I can show you guys really quick from this past week. So, badass looking car. I'll give him that. That's a pretty badass looking car right there. That Armor All, it reminds me of when they did the Eric Jones 43 on Rocket League back in like 2022. I love that Armor All paint scheme right there, him and his Ford Performance. And he came out and he actually had a couple of things to say about it. So he'll be running it, I think it's Addendale, and I may be mispronouncing that. So if there's any Supercars fans that are here in the chat, please correct me. Help me to say that correctly. But this was him running a test. So you got to hop in on it. And then there was a story that came out right here. So Penske NASCAR regular says Gen 3 Supercar drives a lot better than the current generation's Cup car. So for somebody like Austin Cindric to come out and make a statement like that obviously is going to let some people turn some heads in the NASCAR world and say, okay, well, let's dig in a little bit more to what they are doing with their car versus what we're doing with Gen 7. Because I think a lot of people can tell that there were some similarities whenever they announced the Gen 7. I immediately thought about Supercars, and I was like, are they trying to like pull like an Australian Supercars market to NASCAR? And is that why we're adding more and more street courses now to the NASCAR schedule? Like we have the big the big race coming up in San Diego. You know, and it makes sense if you think about it. It's almost like they're trying to like cut into that market some. Like SVG's over here now. You've got Austin Cindric going to run it. So definitely making crossover. And there was a lot of shit that was talked this past week about their whole playoff situation. I think that Supercars just announced that they had this is their first year for a playoff. And it's not going so well from what I did see on the internet. So, but the one thing that you can say is it's always good to see any big stars in America going over and trying something new. Fine 50,000 actions detrimental to NASCAR. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking, we'll talk about actions detrimental here in a second too. But I thought that was just cool to see Austin Cindric trying something new. It was a kind of a theory I had in my mind. I don't know if any of you guys have ever thought the same on that, but something to think about. But the last piece that I was going to talk about is just kind of going to tie us up to what everyone's been talking about in NASCAR this past week, and that is Denny Hamlin dropped actions detrimental. So if you subscribe to Dirty Mo Media podcast, you know, we got Speed Street came out with me and Connor last week. It was our finale. Definitely go check that out on Connor's YouTube and on all the podcast networks. We had a great interview with Tyson Ritter from the All-American Rejects. So getting to hear about him and his experience at his IndyCar races this year was really cool. And just kind of the way he thinks and the way he sees things. A very philosophical guy. I love having a good conversation with someone that is very abstract-minded and sees things a little bit differently. It's always fun to learn how they do things. But with Denny Hamlin, we're getting to this show, he poured a lot out in his most recent podcast episode, and I think it may be the last one that we get this year. Not really 100% sure. But he came out and said that the playoffs are here to stay, that everyone just needs to get over wanting full season points. And I don't know if that's just maybe Denny saying that because he's just so done with everything that happened after this season, and I could totally get that. I could totally understand it, but I'm also not Denny, so I don't know what's really going through Denny's mind. But what I can say is that I could easily see him maybe just being frustrated and saying something in the heat of the moment. I do think that there still is a really big case of people like myself and a lot of other folks out there that are really pushing hard to see NASCAR make this change right now that I think we all know they need to make to kind of really get back on track with what is motorsport and how is motorsport champions crowned, not just in NASCAR but in motorsport in general. There's a pretty common way to do that, and I think that NASCAR would really benefit in gaining more fans from not just around the world, but right here in our backyard, from kind of putting things back to the way that we all feel they should be. So I hope that Denny is just frustrated saying that, and then that's not true. But coming from him, it sure seemed to get stirred up in a different way this past week. So we'll leave it with that. So with that, that's about all the NASCAR stuff I'm going to get into. If there's any other NASCAR news or anything that dropped, please let me know here in the chat or call in 980-317-8717. Going to kind of move in now to some things that happened this week in the world of NHRA, which is a racing series that we haven't really talked about on this show at all. We haven't really gotten into the National Hot Rod Association whatsoever on this program yet. So today is the first time we're going to talk about it. And before I get into talking about the what's got everybody in an uproar, I will say that I have only been to one NHRA race in my entire life, and that was at Worldwide Technology Raceway, and that was in 2023. So I got to go check that out. Got to see Top Fuel, dragsters, funny cars. It was really a different experience for me. I personally am not the biggest fan of NHRA racing. I am always going to be open to a change of heart and a change of mind. But for me, I really just like watching cars going around. I like road course racing. I like kind of that way of competition with racing. I don't think that there's anything wrong with the way that NHRA racing is, and I think that that's where a lot of innovation is found. I think that that's where a lot of people got their start. I know for people in my family, at least, I have an uncle that's huge in NHRA, and his kids are into NHRA racing, drag racing. That's kind of like their thing. Drag, taking a straight. That's what I've always called it, taking a straight. I've never been one that really found a lot of enjoyment in taking a straight. I want to go all around which ways. I want to see corners, and I want to see attrition. I want to see oval battles. Like, that's just kind of what I've always liked. So that's a personal thing. Not to say that that's a bad thing for everybody. So if anybody is a fan of NHRA here, still room open for me to maybe have a change of thought on it. But I have felt those cars. I have been close to them when they take off. That in itself is the experience of NHRA for me, is feeling a top fuel dragster take off and you being in close proximity to that car. The blast that comes off of that thing is fucking, it's probably the closest thing you'll ever feel to what it's like to maybe be standing by a jet before it takes off. That's what I would attribute it to. So, in its own right, NHRA racing is badass. Just personally, not my favorite. But I do want to say that there is a legend in NHRA. There's a man that we all know the name of, and his name is John Force, and he announced his retirement. Some key highlights from John's career. He's retiring at age 76 after a career spanning over 4 decades. 157 NHRA national event wins, the most in NHRA history. 16 funny car championships, including 10 straight titles from 93 to 2002. His retirement influenced partially by his June 2024 fiery crash and health complications. His team, John Force Racing, remains active. The legacy continues through team ownership and driver development. When you think about a name like John Force, you immediately think about NHRA. I think about drag racing. I hear the name Force. He was a force. He's a force of nature. And I wasn't able to find this video on X, but somebody sent it to me on Instagram this week, and I have to play it because if you guys are like me and you like to really understand like the behind the scenes, what's going on in the mind of a driver, what's going on, like what's really happening in the world of racing, like what do drivers really go through, what is owning a team really like what are the what's the real raw understanding of what it takes to do that in life. This video that somebody released with John Force, it was on Rail Dragsters on that account. And I want to share this because I have to find a way to play this. Let me see if I can look it up online. So y'all bear with me for a second. Like, this is just one of those videos that I have to play on this show because this is what I just have so much respect for. Rail Dragsters Instagram. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm going to send this over. Let me send this thing to myself. God, it's such a beautiful video, and I'm telling you, appreciate you guys for waiting along. Let me copy this link and send it over to me in a note, and I'll get it pulled up. But the video that I'm going to show you guys is John Force, and it was from an interview where someone was asking him, about what it really takes to run a racing team. Here it is. All right, we'll get it pulled over. Oh, don't play games with my heart. Quit. Here we go.
Sunday, we're going to go right back 60 hours back on Englishtown.
But your question was, how did I do it in the beginning? If I told you the truth, you wouldn't believe it. You'd think I made it all up. Do you really want to hear the truth to your viewers? Want to hear the truth? Yeah. The truth is, in 1974, I raced cars. People don't know I drove a front-engine dragster. People don't know that I drove a fuel Holden and rolled it end over end on a back street trying to impress my wife, Lori. Almost killed myself back then, and nobody knew who John Force was. And always chasing corporate America. But corporate America wasn't some big company. You know what I mean? McDonald's or AT&T. Corporate America was a little stereo store on the corner. It was a opening Wendy's hamburger. It was a not corporate General Motors or Ford Motor Company. It was Don Steve Chevrolet. You understand how it evolved. But my very first true sponsorship, I'd read a sign, and I'd come back from Australia in 74, 75. Same year Jaws come out and The Exorcist. And boy, when you see the movie The Exorcist, and my motors needed an exorcism. Trust me, to get the demon out there. They blew up, set me on fire, but that's why I got famous. The people love me. This guy can't win a race, but he's on fire. Every week can't beat Don Perdome. He's a joke. But man, he'll tell you a story. He'll do all your shows. He'll stand on a street corner and he'll tell a story and the fans love him. But 30 years later, I'm still standing on the street corner, still preaching the gospel of the fans, and still blowing up them motors, except winning championships now.
Incredible. Just to get to hear like that little bit of his story and like, well, what really was behind it all. Like you get to understand that there are just some people in this world that are just, they have this passion to just race. They just want to do that one thing, and then they figure it all out as they go along. And I think that's the philosophy right there. Like that's the mind of a guy like John Force, and we need so many more people like him in racing all around the board. Yeah, Polar Express says he's such a funny guy. He's hilarious, dude. And I, you know, now in my older age, because I didn't really grow up a lot like watching NHRA racing, like I remember the show Pinks when I was a kid, and I would like every now and then I would watch that on Speed Channel, and I thought it was cool. I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers about to lose their car to another guy. That's like as the closest as I ever got to maybe becoming a fan of that in competition. But there's so many great drivers, there's so many great personalities and people that are over there on that side of it. Never going to discredit them. Never going to say that NHRA is not like a top form of motorsport in the world, because it is. It's kind of the bedrock of innovation, if you will, when it comes to just like pushing the limits to see what an engine can do, and a person behind there piloting that amount of force and pressure and fire. That's what John Force embodied. You know, he was that guy, and he found a way to do it. So kind of like Dale Earnhardt was for NASCAR, John Force was for drag racing. Yeah, they're all great people, man. You go out there and you meet those people. They're awesome. They're awesome to be around. Anton, you know, I think about him a lot. You know, Brittany Force, obviously, the daughter. So this was obviously where I'm going with all this is that, you know, him announcing his retirement is huge for one. It's a very big week for NHRA racing, you know, especially with all the coverage and things they have. But then they dropped the ball in the worst possible way because they canceled their championship due to weather. How can you have a man like that retiring this year and then you cancel your championship weekend due to weather? It doesn't sit right with me, and I'm not even a fan. NHRA canceled the In-N-Out Burger NHRA finals at Panama due to continuous rain and unsafe track conditions. I get that. Remaining championships were decided on points without racing the final eliminations. I get that things happen. You can't control the weather. Why couldn't you just wait? Maybe there was some kind of conflict. Maybe there was, maybe somebody else rented the track that day. The man that was kind of the face of your sport announces his retirement, and you cancel your championship event because of weather. Why couldn't it have been pushed out? Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't looked into what the track rental situation was, or any of that other shit, but it seems to me usually like when you can't run a race because of weather, you wait till the weather's better and then you do it. Everybody that's there, they're there for that event. They're there for that weekend. Like, that's their job, is to compete at that event. That's their main source of income. That's their job. It's what they do. They could afford to wait a couple more days to run that event, but they didn't do it. So Austin Prock, Dallas Glenn, and Richard Gadsden were awarded the titles by standing, from what I have gathered here. I just don't understand. My guess it was due to the TV time slot wasn't available. Yeah, there are certain things in life that matter a little more than if the TV time was there. I feel like it could have been worked out. I don't know of any other big things that were really going on this week. You had Week 11 NFL football. I don't really know if that is conflicting with where the NHRA championship would be aired. You have like talk shows like Colin Cowherd. Like they have multiple channels. They can move that to FS1, FS2. You could figure out a way to do it. So it really it's a rough look, and maybe I'm not getting the full picture. Maybe there are some other elements to it that I need to look into, that I need to dig around into before I go and cast in my stones. I'll give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I just don't see why you couldn't have waited for the weather to clear up to run this event. Especially in a big year like this one, where the man that kind of made your sport very, very popular announces his retirement. So I hope none of this will take away from John Force's legacy. But it's kind of like a letdown. To me, like, if I'm John Force in this situation, I'm kind of like, what? I don't know. Something to think about. I can't speak to it too much. I need to get somebody on here that is deep in the NHRA world to help break this down. Polar Express says, shifting gears here, in my personal opinion, Dale Jr.'s podcast should be aired on TV. I agree. I do agree. I firmly agree. A lot of things. I would love if we had another IndyCar show on television, like a podcast or interview show or whatever, something like this. This is why we do Motorsport Report. This is why I do what I do. And we just started doing this, so we got a lot of room to get better and grow. So, from that, I will say it kind of disappointing in the NHRA world. First time I've ever talked about NHRA on this program. is what it is. Kind of a tough situation to come back from, but hey, we'll see. They were really mad earlier in the year whenever Fox was talking about how IndyCar was the fastest racing on earth. They had a lot to show up for, a lot of shit they wanted to talk. And then your championship event gets called the way that it did. There were some other people that talked about it. I think that there were like statements that were made. I think Tony Stewart had came out and said something. Because, like, you always want to look to those guys, you know? You want to look to those big names to, you know, that maybe outside of the general series for answers. You want to try to figure it out. I don't know. We're going to go ahead and move now. Before we get to our interview with Ricky Stenhouse, we're going to talk a little bit about dirt racing. Some of you here in the chat may be a little bit more familiar with dirt racing. If you're here watching today from the World of Outlaws live streams, let me know here in the chat. Just drop a letter. Say what's up. Overton versus Bobby Pierce at Sonoya Raceway. There was a helmet toss that happened, so a little bit of drama going down in the dirt world. Always fun to see. Is it just me, or has Fox been getting progressively worse since the 2010s? I don't know. I can't comment to that. I don't work for Fox. I think that just the world's changed so much, and it's hard for some people to keep up with it quick enough. I think that that's the best thing. That's why I think you have a lot more people doing individual shit now. It's kind of the way I'm doing this show individually, and more people are getting to understand the world of media and the internet, and we're really kind of at that weird breaking point with it now. I think we're finally like at this strange point in our culture, society, where we're kind of accepting the internet and how media on the internet works. And it's just got a lot of the big networks in kind of strange places, which is why I really push for innovation to, I think it would be really cool if, you could go on the internet and you have a streamer, somebody that you like the way that they do it. You can buy the race and you can stream it and do the Manning Cast style things. I think that's a great idea that people aren't really acting on. Finding a way to sell the rights to your production to streamers is a $1 million idea that I'm literally sitting here giving away for free. We'll see if it transpires. I think it would be a really cool way to do things because everyone's kind of siloed off now. There really is no more gigantic collective like there used to be. Everybody's kind of like in their own little world in a weird way. But we all still stay connected by the things that we love and the things that we like, which is why we do racing here. Did you see the first Rising episode that NASCAR premiered yesterday? I did have that on my sheet to talk about. I wasn't going to go too deep into it, though. I don't understand why they dropped their first episode on a Monday night. Maybe wait where you're not competing with, like, Monday Night Football or something. I don't know. I think when I went on there last night, there was like 1.4 thousand people watching it, which, I mean, that's cool and all. But, I mean, I'm a big fan of Raja. Raja's a good buddy of mine. Really like that kid, and he's got a lot that he's doing right now. And so I think it's cool to, like, have his story. And it'll be up there for people. I'm sure it's going to get a shitload of viewership now that it's out. Carson Hocevar was in the chat, and it was hilarious. Yeah, Carson's on that show. Jesse Love's on that show as well. I need to go back and look at that then. Because if Hocevar was in the chat and he was talking shit, that would be pretty funny. Something to bring up here. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Polar Express. This is why I love this show, is just because we have open dialogue. We're back and forth. I'm talking about things I've gathered. People are bringing things here that are news. People can call in and talk. It's so fun. I know this has been a weird day. Most people are used to the Wednesday episode drops now, but this will be a one-time only. I have an event I have to go to tomorrow for my child. They're doing Thanksgiving presentation, so I can't miss that. So another one of the great benefits of having your own program that you can kind of maneuver on your own. But yeah, the Sonoya Raceway race, Jonathan Davenport wins, surprise. And then you had I think it was the Hangtown 100 where Kyle Larson got in a flip. He got in a wreck. Pursley won that race, the guy that was involved in an accident with Kyle Larson. Snyder finished P2, and Golubic P3. Even the mods from the NASCAR YouTube channel were having some fun with him. Oh, shit. Okay, yeah, it's definitely something I'll look into then. I'm not able to really get it pulled up here to where I can look at it, like, on screen. But it's something I'll dive into and just kind of, like, peek around. And I think they're going to keep dropping that over, like, the weeks. Like, there'll be more episodes and stuff coming out from what I understand. In the dirt world, too, Kyle Larson returning to Perth Motorplex with the high limit goes global situation. So that's going to be pretty cool. High Limit International returns December 28th to 30th. Larson is confirmed as the headline driver. Won the inaugural event in 2024 at Perth. The purse raised to $68,000, one of the largest international sprint car payouts. High Limit, Larson and Brad Sweet Series is positioning itself to become global, not just U.S.-based. So that's going to be pretty cool. Are you going to stay up till 3 a.m. to watch that race? I might. I know a lot of other dirt guys out there that probably will. Those guys don't sleep, man. That's the one thing I learned about that world. Those dudes do not fucking sleep. How can you with that schedule? It's grueling. So that's some of the bigger news that I wanted to run through, so kind of got some of that out the way. Also, Rowdy Bush going to run the Snowball Derby in the 51. Yes. I was about to go do one more quick scroll, and I knew that there was one story that I needed to touch on, and that's the one. So going to be cool to see him. I haven't heard of any other NASCAR drivers that have announced they're going to do Snowball Derby, but that'll be one to watch on Flow Racing, I believe they'll have that. So you'll be able to watch the Snowball Derby. I've been once to that race, and I actually overslept because we were up till like 6 a.m. With a couple of people. And then I woke up at like 4 o'clock the next day, and I was like, I've missed the Snowball Derby. So I didn't get to actually watch the Snowball Derby in person. I was just there for the weekend. That was a fun story. I think that was the year Noah Gragson ran. That was the year Noah Gragson ran the Snowball Derby. So that's always a really big event down in Florida to be checking out. But, yeah, Rowdy did say he was going to run it, and I don't know of anyone else that's going to do it. Also, this weekend, if you just have a hankering for racing like I do, this may be the one weekend where you watch Formula One racing. And I think I'm going to watch it this weekend. I don't watch a lot of F1, but I need something, right? So I'm going to watch F1 this weekend in Vegas. They had a story that I thought was pretty funny that they dropped. And this will be the last little thing we go over before I cut to the Ricky Stenhouse interview. F1 Vegas CEO, this was on November 15th. You can buy your $25,000 expensive ticket for your high roller, but we've got $100 tickets for Thursday night. Boy, oh boy. The race isn't even on Thursday night, but let's find a way that we can continue to make people in today's economy feel very comfortable by offering them a $100 ticket to not even the race. That is quite the way to do it. No other race on the calendar is doing a $50 ticket. Our ticket sales are pacing roughly 50% ahead. You can come on Thursday night for $50. That's exactly what I would. I would love to take a trip to Las Vegas to go see an F1 race, and I can't pay $25,000 to go watch the race, so I'll just go watch cars do a couple laps for $50. That seems fun. That seems fair. No other race on the calendar is doing a $50 ticket. You spend $100, you can go to Indy 500. That's an actual race. I don't even know what we're doing anymore. I don't even know. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch the race. I think McLaren's leading the points. That's about all I know about F1 right now. McLaren's leading it. Good for them. Max Verstappen had a podcast 2 weeks ago where he said he'd never race an oval. He was kind of scared, just like Schumacher did years ago. Kind of talking shit on oval racing, making oval racing look bad. Dude, it's like the most badass people on the planet. You're just mad. You're scared. That's the way I look at it. You're scared if you don't want to do it. Race car drivers will do anything, dude. They're wild boys and girls. They'll get out there and get down with it. I understand the whole point about it, though. Maybe not worth the money for him or whatever, but that doesn't make it any better. So it's just when they got people like that saying that kind of shit, like I don't know. It's what people like. Yay. Not me. I don't know. I'd rather watch IndyCar any day of the week. A lot more action, a lot more fun. Cars actually, can get around other cars pretty easily there. And, yeah. Really want him to race against Larson at Dega. He shit himself. He would shit his pants, dude. There's no way you will ever see Max Verstappen at Talladega, dude. Never. Crazy day, so wasn't able to tune in. Hope you're having a great show. Hey, Ryan. Thanks so much, man. Yeah, you can always rewatch it later on. We've been back and forth a lot on the program today. I'm kind of getting over sickness this past weekend. I think that it's like I never get sick during the racing season. It's like it waits until the off season and just festers. And it's like, here's your sick for the year. So I'm just been dealing with that. And we're doing it a day early too, because I have a presentation to go to tomorrow. So the rest of my day is going to be resting up so that I can get all of this crud out and enjoy a nice Thanksgiving presentation with my child at his school. So that's what we will be doing tomorrow. But yeah, just the whole it's slap in the face, dude. $50 ticket. He's like, what other racing series is giving you a $50 ticket to a Thursday night practice where you can watch cars just go down a straightaway? Yep. That's one way to put it, I guess, Let's see if there's any last little pieces of big news that I wanted to talk about today before we cut over to our interview with Ricky. Oh, yeah. I wanted to show you guys this. This is something to keep in your back pocket for Talladega. If anybody goes to Talladega, you know that there's all kinds of wild things that you can see on Talladega Boulevard. I hope someone creates what this guy did at a football game. He made a remote control trash can that has wheels, and he's driving around on it. I thought that was great. We should at least, I feel like at the minimum, you should see 1 to 2 of those on Talladega Boulevard in 2026 at the minimum. Ryan in the chat says, to be fair, there's no passing in F1 races, so practice sessions aren't much different. And seeing those cars on track is actually pretty cool. The engineering is next level. I'd pay $50 to watch an hour of practice. And that's Ryan. I feel like if you're in Las Vegas and like maybe you weren't there for the race and it's just kind of happening, it's like, yeah, it's something to take the kids or your wife or whatever to do. I get it. I think it's just the more of like, what other event is doing this? Like, it's just that whole, I don't know, fancy pantsness about it. I don't know how else to put it. I could be completely wrong. One day, maybe there'll be a study come out that basically demonizes me for my distaste of F1 racing. A lot of people have tried to make me like it, and it just hasn't really hit for me yet. I think it's when there's no other racing going on, that's cool. I'll watch it. They're tone deaf. Have any plans to go to more dirt races soon, like Gateway or Chili Bowl? I don't know. I would love to go to the Dome, dude. In Gateway, I had that interview with we talked with Nick Hoffman on the show last week. He really got me curious about the Dome, and I've looked up some videos on that. That shit looks incredible. So I don't know if I'll do it this year, but would definitely look into maybe doing it for 2026. And Chili Bowl is one that I just don't know yet. If the opportunity presents itself, I would love to go. If not, I would love to be here live with you guys talking about it, watching it, whatever. So we'll figure out how that works. But my dirt racing bug is still definitely here. This is probably where some of it came from. Probably. Maybe I have chili bowl flu without even being in the chili bowl. I don't know. Could be something to keep an eye on. But with that, just wanted to show that last little thing. I thought that remote control trash can was hilarious, and I hope that somebody builds that and brings it to Talladega. So if you're watching this and you like to engineer shit, build a remote control trash can with scooter wheels that you can get in and ride around the boulevard. I think that would be hilarious. Someone's got to do it. And lastly, I will say, I think Riley Herbst, something on Monster Energy YouTube. Apparently, they've got a cup car down in Vegas, so may have some kind of crossover with NASCAR and F1 this week. I don't know. Either way it goes, there's not a lot of other racing going on, so I'm going to tune in to the Las Vegas F1 Grand Prix this weekend. It's about my only F1 race that I watch in a year, so I'll watch that one. So we'll give it a go. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get us ready for our interview with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. So this is a first exclusive interview that everyone will get to watch here. And I'll be dropping it on my YouTube later today. But you guys that are tuned in live will get to see it for the first time ever. So without further ado, here is my one-on-one from World of Outlaws with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. All right, we are coming to you live from the Charlotte Dirt Track for the World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink World Finals, and I am joined today by a good buddy of mine. Known him for a while. We gained a friendship over nacho fries. You may know him as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. The man himself is here with us. Also, the owner of Stenhouse Jr. Marshall Racing in the World of Outlaws. Me and you have talked a lot in life. We've never gotten this deep into the world of racing, and this weekend I'm like really getting familiar with it all.
You're in.
I'm in now.
Yeah.
The bug is here. I've been bitten. We've been doing the live streaming, and it's been fun, and I've taken the time to watch YouTube videos over the last few days to learn even more about you that I didn't know. So I thought I knew everything there was to know, and now I've learned that I had more. So today I wanted to kind of talk with you about that part of your life, dirt racing, and how you got started. First off, you and I was out at Volusia Speedway, I think it was, before you won the Daytona 500. You brought me out there, and you were running there that night. That was really the first time I ever got into dirt. How much are you running dirt these days?
I would say, I think this year was 12-ish times. Okay. Not as much as like Larson does on a weekly kind of basis in between all the NASCAR stuff. There's times that I wish I could run more. There's times where I get kind of over it. It just depends on how those races go. But I would say anywhere from 12 to 15 is a good number for me to hit. When I was in the Nationwide Series back in like 2009, 10, 11, 12, I was hitting kind of the 30-ish race mark. I was doing a little bit more than I am now.
Yeah, and you were doing USAC when you started out, and so you were running the sprint cars. Going back to like that time in your career, I watched a piece of a documentary where a guy was like, I always like to imagine like what Ricky's career would have looked like if he would have stayed on this side of things. I think your career worked out pretty damn good.
Yeah, I'm glad it did what it did.
Yeah. So like when was it for you that you knew running out there that like you had it and you were going to be able to go toe to toe with those dudes week in and week out?
I don't know. I didn't get to race sprint cars very long. My career, I feel like, happened, you could kind of say overnight, at least like that's what it felt like. And looking back, it definitely, for me, I raced go-karts, when I was younger, and I did that for a long time up until I was 15 years old. I wanted to get in micros or, some kind of midgets or something. Dad didn't want to spend the money to do that. He was
like my dad.
I'll just wait until you can run like a full-size sprint car, and then, you can just race sprint cars, and we'll skip spending that money. So we did that. Like when I was about, 15 and a half, kind of that age range. My dad put me in a car to go test, and my dad's never been in a car since.
Wow.
So he was racing weekly, and then, I did that. So when I was 15 years old, got in a sprint car, raced a half a season. That was in 2003. Then I ran 2004, 5, and 6 was the years that I really raced sprint cars with the wing. Started dabbling a little bit in the non-wing USAC stuff. And then 2007 is when I ended up running for Tony's sprint car team, raced USAC all that year. And then all of a sudden at the end of that year, I'm signing a contract with Roush Fenway Racing to, race in the ARCA series. So, it happened really fast. I would say I ran full-time sprint cars for, 2004, 5, 6, 7, like 4 years. It wasn't very long. But when I started racing for Tony, that was the first year I graduated high school. I felt like, man, I got a job. I'm getting paid to race sprint cars, and that's really all I cared to do. And I was like, awesome, this is it. Yeah. And then I didn't really think that there was an opportunity to go to NASCAR, but every door, just kind of kept opening to eventually have that opportunity.
That it's fascinating to me because, like, you talk about how it kind of like happened overnight. Like, a lot of years went into you behind the wheel of a car. Was it so you weren't really thinking about NASCAR at all, like, during that time?
I am always super kind of focused on whatever I'm doing at that moment.
Present moment.
When it was racing go-karts, it was racing go-karts, and that was it. I mean, we rode dirt bikes for fun, but everything I thought about was racing go-karts. When I started racing sprint cars, it was just racing sprint cars. And my dad raced sprint cars, and so I kind of, that's what I wanted to do. And so I guess I would say when I was racing go-karts, I thought about racing sprint cars. But once I started racing sprint cars and I was able to make a living, like, that was really all I cared about. There's plenty of people that made a living on the World of Outlaws, USAC schedule, that are still racing today when, I got to race against some legends, which was awesome. So, I didn't really focus too much on the NASCAR side of things, probably until I signed with an agency in January of 2007.
Okay.
And so, like, I had representation.
Yeah.
And then we went to Phoenix. We won a big USAC race. We won the Copper on Dirt. We won the Sprint Car and the Silver Crown. And then that's eventually what got me a ride to, race Tony's sprint car team. But really, until I signed with them, I probably didn't think about stock car racing at all.
One thing that I just kind of want to know now after being out here this weekend is, in the NASCAR world, you've got dirt guys and you've got asphalt guys. What are some of the big differences personality-wise between those two? Do you think that one has a little bit more edge than another?
No, I think you got all different characters, in late model racing or dirt track racing. And, you could probably find a guy that acts like Kyle Larson or myself in, pavement late model racing, or gravel or Rico. Like, there's so many crossovers that I feel like, everybody's got their own personality. So I don't think one is better than the other. I do look at, like, what Corey Day is going to try and do now as being kind of difficult. Back when I was coming in and Larson, we did so much testing, like Bell. We tested a lot. I think I tested more than I raced the ARCA car, and so now they're just throwing him out there and,
see what you can do.
You got 20 minutes of practice and that's about it, so, Corey's got to learn at a steeper curve than, some of the others. So I think transitioning from dirt to asphalt is probably a little bit more difficult right now than it used to be back when I was doing it. But I feel like you can find different characters all over, and, everybody's got their traits that they're good at and characteristics, driving style. But I don't know. If you look through the late model ranks, I feel like there's plenty of characters there too.
Okay. One thing about these cars, though, that I know is different. So, obviously, when you're on asphalt, there's a lot more grip, things like that there. When you're on dirt, you dudes are just dogging it in like 120 miles an hour into a corner. And seeing that in person really kind of put that in perspective.
I saw you with your radar gun.
Yeah. I got one right, though, so that was good. But the thing for me is, like, when you're out there, like, it's dusty as shit, for one. It's dirty. It's quick. I don't even see how you guys keep up with, like, where you're at on the track. Like, can you break down a little bit about, like, how you find the best lines when you're out during a race, like, and how you're able to kind of maneuver through that?
Yeah, so dirt track racing, the track's always changing. Asphalt, you can go to a racetrack at Hickory Motor Speedway, and, the line for the last 20 years is the same line.
Right.
You could come to Charlotte all 3 nights and you could have different lines win the race. And that's just something that you learn, growing up. You're watching the racetrack. You feel the race car. You feel what your car is doing against the cushion when you lift to run the bottom. Like the dirt late model race the other night, like the guy's leading, running the middle, and on Thursday night, and then the guy sneaks in and wins running the bottom
right there at the end,
out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So you got to find what your car likes as well, but you can feel it in the seat. Charlotte is a little difficult looking at it versus some of brown dirt racetracks. I feel like the red dirt's always kind of tricky. The brown dirt, it gets really black in the center, and that is slick.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for the top, the cushion, or the bottom. And so, it's always changing, but you're going off a feel, some knowledge of what the racetrack looks like. And then you're also judging yourself based off of, like, the leaders the other night with Gravel and Rico. They're basing themselves off the lap cars they're passing. If they're running the top of the racetrack, they catch guys that are running the bottom. They're lap cars, right? So they're not near as fast. But if all of a sudden the lap car's pulling away or they're struggling to get by them, now all of a sudden they're like, wait a minute. The bottom of the racetrack must be better than the top of the racetrack.
Right.
So there's a lot of scenarios going through your head.
You have to probably have just a ton of experience with that, too, because, like, you guys don't have anybody in your ear when you're out there on the dirt.
None.
It's just you and the track. Do you, like, what kind of mental preparation goes in? Like, do you do a lot of visualization and things like that?
Yeah, I do. I think, but you can only visualize so much. You visualize the starts, kind of how you think it's going to play out. If you're on the, front row, what you think it's going to do. But then as soon as you hit the throttle, everything can change, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can hit the throttle and you're like, all right, I should beat this guy on the outside of me to turn 1, but if you don't, now you got to find a different game plan. Immediately. it's wild. And then you watch the guys like what Rico and Gravel have been doing this year, and as many races as they've won. You watch them race guys, and you can tell that they're thinking totally different than maybe the other guy that they're racing against. And their cars are good, their experience and they are good, but their thought process is, next level.
Yeah, and speaking of, like, the guys and all the preparation work that goes into it, I found out that these dudes are out here, like, you guys are racing like 80, 90 times a year. So, like, in this series, that's a lot of road time.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of downtime whatsoever. And when you're doing that for so long, like, you can speak to it now, like, from doing it in the past, like, and you as a team owner today, with you being a NASCAR driver, how does everything on that end work with you owning this team? And what are some of the challenges, I guess, that you face? Like, how many times do you want to be out here? Like, where does it stand, essentially?
Yeah, for me, like, so I drove for Tony. I bugged him for 2 or 3 years to drive his car, and then finally I got the opportunity. So, once I made it to NASCAR, I was like, you know what? When I make it to the Cup Series, I want a team to run the Outlaws and to give back. Like, I don't know if I would have made it to where I'm at without Tony's sprint car team. Right. And so that was number one reason why I wanted a sprint car team, and just because I grew up around it and I loved it. And it's something that once you're around, you don't really want to get rid of. And so did that, got a team, and now it's all about, I want to get out as much as I can. Luckily for Dirt Vision, I'm able to watch just about every single night, unless we have a Saturday night race, then I can't watch. So we have debriefs every week, jump on a team call, download, debrief with the guys, the driver, and just go over everything. But I would say I probably make it to 5 to 10 races a year, not near as many as I would like, but they got a grueling schedule. We get outlaw guys that come work on cup cars, and they're like, man, this is nice. You fly to the racetrack, got a nice hotel room every night. You're not driving to the next racetrack, fly home, work on the cars, and do it all over again. But we got our crew chief, and then we got a car chief and a tire guy, and they also all three drive the truck and trailer. So those guys are what make it go around day to day and get the job done. So they got a lot of things riding on their shoulders to get done. They clean the truck and trailer, obviously drive it, work on the car, maintenance it, make sure everything's tip top throughout the night. And then, they go to the car wash, do it all over again.
You just got to be built different. I think that's the main thing.
It is. You got to love it. You got to love it. You'll get guys that come in thinking, they might race locally, and work on guys' car. They might come out on the road and they realize that, maybe they're not cut out for it.
Yeah, dude, that's a grind, man. It's just the mental preparation that goes into it, and like you said, the differences. And I guess it kind of brings me back to asking you a question about where you went from dirt to NASCAR. Like, was there anything that you had to throw out of the window when you moved into NASCAR, as opposed to like what you would do for your mental prep and how you raced here in dirt?
I would say the biggest thing is just, and I still deal with it now, is just, overdriving the race car, right? Like, yeah. You've seen, sometimes the harder you drive a sprint car, the better it feels, faster it goes. It fixes a lot of problems. Stock car racing's not necessarily like that. I feel like Bristol's kind of like that. Like, you can drive it extra hard and get a little bit more out of it. And there's other racetracks as well, but for the most part, you got to get your car driving the way it needs to so that you can drive just under that limit. Yeah. And, that was difficult. I would say for me, the biggest challenge when I came to stock car racing was tests started at like 8 a.m. in the morning, and then you would test all day long. Dude, by the end of the test, I'd be tired.
And you stay up late, too.
I used to. I don't anymore.
Not anymore? It's gotten to you now?
Yeah, I'm watching sprint car racing, and, when I was racing sprint cars in 2007, racing USAC, I helped the guys work on the car because that's one of the things that I miss about sprint car racing is, working on the race cars. And so when I started driving for Tony's sprint car team, I would work on the cars with the crew guys. We would stay out late at the car wash. Then you would sleep in till, noon, and then, race that night and do it all over again. So trying to come back over to asphalt racing was very difficult for a while.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about it after the Bristol race this year, but the big thing that's happening in NASCAR right now with Goodyear is these tires. And I have to ask, too, because it's something that kind of intrigues me. Like, as a dirt guy, you guys do tire work, obviously. There are things you do with the tires. How do you go from managing tires in the way that you are now in NASCAR to how you do in dirt?
Similar. It's similar. If you get wheel spin or you drive into the corner too far on the stock car and get your right front worn out, then all of a sudden it quits turning and, things just kind of fall down. Sprint car racing is really similar, but at the same time in sprint car racing, you can get your tire sealed over where, no matter how much you spin it, it won't come back, right? So I mean, I'm out of the game. I don't do it near as often as I used to. Goodyear on our side is killing it. On the stock car side, I think they're doing a phenomenal job bringing us really good tires to the racetrack. Hoosier went through a little bit of a change in sprint car tires probably a year or two ago, and it's caught me off guard. I don't race them all the time, and so I don't feel comfortable when I go race. Now, when I race series that run the old Hoosier tires, I feel good. They're just built different, and Goodyear does the same thing. With short track tires versus intermediates. Stiffer sidewall. A little bit more forgiving, flexible sidewall, and it changes every time you hit the racetrack, depending on what build you have. And so, sprint car racing right now, I think they've been doing a few tire tests here lately. So I haven't heard anything that's come out of those yet. But, still throttle control is one of the easiest ways, dirt or asphalt to, save your tires.
Who are the big up-and-coming stars right now in the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series? Who is some drivers you think people need to be looking out for?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, in the World of Outlaws, you have to have, just about 8 or 9 years of experience before anybody wins a championship.
Seems that way, yeah.
You got to pay your dues. You got to put your time in. Gravels, and then once somebody wins, it's hard to knock them off. Donnie, he got knocked off a couple of times, and a couple of times in a row, then all of a sudden he got back on. Sweet went through, winning championships. Now Gravel's kind of in that spot of, and I don't really see him losing it anytime soon.
How old is he?
I don't know how old Dick Gravel is, but, I mean, he's got plenty of years left.
Yeah.
Plenty of years left. I mean, David and I think, started racing sprint cars really kind of similar time frame. So
people say he's like the Denny Hamlin of dirt racing. Is that true?
I could see that, maybe a little bit, yeah. Right. Obviously, he's got 2 championships to go along with it now.
Yeah.
Denny probably should have at least one. I mean, I could look back that he should have 2 or 3, but... you just pay your dues. Buddy and Carson Macedo have been winning a lot recently. So I could see them kind of being next. Sheldon won a lot with us. We never really got over that hump of contending for a championship yet, but at the same time, he, still kind of year 8, 9, there's room and time left there, but yeah, you gotta pay your dues. And so we got young guys coming up, through the pipeline that are putting good races together. And, I think they've got, as long as they can get multiple seasons on tour, I think that's when you can kind of, solidify your spot on the World of Outlaws.
Yeah, you get in that groove. The last thing I want to ask you is, a lot of people that watch my stuff, they're big NASCAR, IndyCar fans now. What does Ricky Stenhouse have to say to somebody that's never really been into dirt racing of why they should check it out and get involved in it?
Well, I think just watching, and sprint car racing is 1,000 horsepower. They weigh 1,500 pounds with the driver and fuel in it. It's just kind of chaos out there. It is probably the fastest form of motorsports in a small venue, where you can go get up close, impersonal, buy you a $30 pit pass and come on in and, check things out. So the racing's exciting. I think, traveling all across the country, and now it's super accessible online. And so I would very highly encourage people to come, check it out. Just watch how close we run to the wall, how close we run to each other, the way we maneuver and pass people. Slide jobs have come over to stock car racing a little bit, and it came from here. So to me it's almost the purest form of motorsports, where a driver can take a car and get more out of it than the car's capable of, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Just pure muscle. Well, dude, thanks so much for sitting with us today, talking about a little bit of your history and just the whole landscape. I've learned a ton, and
glad you came out all week.
I'm glad I've been here now. I want to come to more now, so this won't be the last one. It does. All right, thanks so much for watching. And that was our interview with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at the World of Outlaws World Finals. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. While we were in the middle of that interview, some news did drop in the dirt racing world. And I want to put it over on Browser View to show you guys. So it's official. For the first time ever, Michael Kofoid goes to Perth Motorplex after $1 million season in America and a World of Outlaws championship. Runner-up Buddy is ending 2025 with High Limit International in Western Australia. So there you go. A little bit more news that came out there. Buddy Kofoid, or Michael Kofoid, is going to be, I guess, the same guy, right? Michael, Buddy, same guy. Going to be running over there at Perth. So that's going to be one I'm going to have to tune into and watch. Also, Jeb Burton is returning to Jordan Anderson Racing per Jordan Bianchi. This marks Burton's 4th consecutive year with the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series team, if you want to call it that. And then I also did see this pop up. This is Chris Buescher over in the United Kingdom. So the original post was, we're not at Fuji Speedway. We're not at Adelaide. But thanks to Castrol, we did get Chris Buescher to our old mate Thomas Randall to the United Kingdom this week to try a few different cars at M Sport. And he had this video that they put up.
I'm a little scared. Yeah.
He's a little scared.
I'm not a good passenger.
So they're going to go ride him through the forest. So that's something to look into. So we'll be keeping tabs on that throughout the rest of the day. Like I said, kind of a different day. You know, we're doing this. We normally do this on Wednesdays at 12. We're doing this on Tuesday today. So I just want to say thank you guys that did tune in today. Came over on our rare off schedule vodcast or whatever the hell you want to call this thing for Motorsport Report. Now that we are kind of in the off season this week, I'm going to be taking a little bit of time to put together this show on a podcast form as well. So for anybody that doesn't really like to tune into YouTube or watch things like that, if you want to listen to this show, you can. It'll be on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I'll be getting some of the episodes we've already done put over there into that shelf, so that way we can continue to grow the show. And let's see, J.D. Brown says the time the Perth race to be in the morning. And it's supposed to be like 3 a.m. So it'll probably be like 3 a.m. You have to get up. So look, if you're an F1 fan, you're used to getting up super early in the morning to watch races. This is just one of those things. You're a dirt fan. You're gonna wake up early in the morning. You're gonna watch it. So 3 a.m. I think is when it should be, and we'll know a little bit more. That'll be in December. So we'll have a little bit of time between now and then, so I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it on this program. If there was anything else that you guys have, be sure to hit me up on social media at Garage Guy Chase throughout the week. Share with me some stories that you want to hear me talk about here. And as always, get in on the conversation. You can call in 980-317-8717. If you don't want to call in live, you can call that number, leave a voicemail, and I can get those voicemails and play them on the show, or you can call in live anytime you like. And aside from that, we'll just continue another week now that we're in the NASCAR, IndyCar off season. And trying to dabble out into the other forms of motorsport out there in the world. So I'll continue to bring you guys all the news that I can. We'll be tracking the NASCAR lawsuit. As of right now, that's still set, to go on, set for trial December the 1st. So we'll be covering that if they don't settle. Again, happy birthday, Denny Hamlin. I don't know if NASCAR will tell you today online, but we'll tell you here. And thanks again just for tuning in and for watching. And we will see you next week at our normal scheduled time for Wednesday. Oh, shit. We got a call. Motorsport Report, you're live.
Hey, man. How you going?
Hey, what's up? What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Zach from Alabama, live in the Hobby Lobby parking lot.
Live in the Hobby Lobby parking lot. Well, what's up, big dog? I hadn't heard from you in a little bit, Zach. I know you should be excited this week. You've got F1 racing coming on in Vegas.
I know. Yeah, 10 o'clock my time, starting time. So I'm excited for it.
Well, what's new with you, man?
The reason I didn't call in a whole lot this past month because of a lot of family drama, but
Okay. Is it better now?
What?
Is it better now?
Was it family drama?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
That's good, dude.
Kyle Larson, my favorite driver, is a NASCAR champion the second time.
Yep.
And a couple weeks processing it, and I'm like, Denny Hamlin, he could have won that championship, but I think Hendrick Motorsports caused that wreck.
His tire went down. The 24 William Byron.
Yeah, I mean, I can go full conspiracy theory mode.
Oh, you got conspiracy theories?
Yeah, with NASCAR and with Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably not alone there. There's a ton of people that can tinfoil hat it. We could do that all day long. But I mean, it's also just I feel like after a few weeks now, it just kind of set in ever since Denny dropped his podcast with Actions Detrimental. I feel like everyone's kind of like accepting what it is. Kyle Larson is a NASCAR champion. Nobody can take that away from him. He deserved that championship. He won it based off of how the NASCAR rules are, and that's just how it goes. So I know that you're happy that he's a champion. We could tinfoil hat it all day long, but yeah, it's one of those deals. Are you going to be watching Kyle in High Limit in December?
When is that? What day?
It's going to be late December. Basically, it's going to be in Australia. You'll have to wake up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. But from what I read about it, it's December 28th through 30th, the High Limit International Series to return to Perth Motorplex in Australia. So December 28th through 30th, and he won that event in 2024. $68,000 purse is on the line.
Yeah, I might how to watch it.
There you go. Was there anything else you got for us, Zach?
Let's see. Not a whole lot. Just graduated high school, so not really a whole lot. And with racing news, so.
Congrats, man. Congrats on the graduation.
Thanks, man.
No worries, dude. And I appreciate you calling in. Well, if that's it, enjoy the rest of the offseason. We'll be back on Wednesday. But thanks for calling in as always, Zach. We appreciate you.
Okay, man. Bye.
That was Zach. He was calling in live from a Hobby Lobby parking lot. And he just graduated high school. It's always good to hear from Zach. He's called in a good bit on this program. That's going to be all that I have for us today. Again, we'll be back next week. On Wednesday, we'll have a new guest lined up, so make sure that you tune in. Tell a friend, be a friend. Motorsport Report. It's motorsport news for you.